Hi, welcome to Culture of Paint. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at what's caught our eye over the last couple of weeks in the miniatures painting world. For our main topic, we're going to be discussing Games Workshop's recently retired art director, John Blanche, and the influence that he's had on all the miniatures that we love to paint. And we'll close the show out, as usual, taking a look at what the hashtag Paint Cultists have been up to. Now, Culture of Paint's aimed at a mature audience. We might use explicit language and discuss adult themes. Now, let's talk about paint. And we are back in, I think, an all incredibly relaxed after definitely not stressing for the last 42 minutes because nothing. It's why I like painting. It's analog. You just colour things in and relax. You have to deal with all this bullshit with computers and everything.
That's an idea for an episode. Analog.
There we are. Analog versus digital.
Keep analog. Yeah. People wanting these apps for their rules. Forget about it.
Okay. We've got the chat's there, so that's the main thing. Hi everyone, I'm Henry, and joining me as usual are Andy and Matt. No Rich tonight, he's still busy somewhere in deepest, darkest Wiltshire doing things. That might be the topic of a future episode as well. And there's a little bit of deja vu. If I keep looking over this way, it's because that fucking camera's broken and I'm on a different camera over here now, so whatever. It's an amazing start. Deja vu. If some of you are wondering, didn't you do a John Blanche episode a couple of weeks ago? We did. When we listened back to it, there was a load of issues we had with the sound. We really didn't like it, and we think it's quite an important topic and quite an important episode. So we just decided we'd redo it tonight, and then next week we'll get back to the regular schedule with the next shows. And also, some of you might notice we're back on the main channel. We tried the other channel thing. We didn't like it. So we're back here. So just pretend the last 8 weeks has just been, it's been hot. It's been a bit hot over here.
We're trying, people. We're trying.
We're trying. Always trying. We've got to give 10 out of 10 for effort, right? Audio sounding good. Lovely. Thanks, Meandering Shade. Some new names in the chat as well, which is lovely. Right. Let's crack on. Picks of the week, because it's been another week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, a week since the last one.
It's been time.
In some time, and there's been lots of things shown. So
it has.
What's up first?
First up is mine.
You boys and your rats.
Oh yes, amazing pick. Amazing.
I'm so happy. This is the only thing I cared about the new previews, and it's not. Yeah.
Is this this gonna be an entry for next year?
Oh no, I'm done with Skaven. Done my rats now. They don't need to be GD entries anymore. But I want to paint these because these look wicked.
So hang on, does that mean you're done with orcs as well?
For GD, probably.
Are you one and doneing it with your GD stuff?
Yeah.
Likes to mix it up, this boy.
Yeah.
Need to keep it fresh. Keep everyone on their toes. Not
like it.
Enter the same entry as someone else that did a better job than me and won.
But I mean, this is the best thing about these little side game things they do for Age of Sigmar, isn't it? It's just it kind of feels like Underworlds. Like Warcry seems almost adjacent, like it's the Skunk Works bit of the AOS team. But Weird Hollow always feels like it's what's coming up soon. If that makes sense. So we get to see him there's lots and lots of chittering noises to do with lots of rats coming over the next 12 months. So I hope this is just the beginning of it.
It's just wicked, isn't it? And I have a feeling that more than likely Max had a heavy hand in guiding this color palette for some reason.
It's the little white dags, isn't it, on the sleeves? That was on his little peasants ages ago, wasn't it?
And the same color of the cloak sort of thing as well.
Yeah, nice.
Here you go.
So Pete's saying he's loving the smoke sculpts, and I know that if sculpted effects is often a contentious thing.
I'm into it now, full on.
You're all aboard, yeah?
Yeah, because sometimes you want to do something, and if you model it, then it's a bit lame. People do cotton wool smoke, which is fine for terrain and you're blown up tanks, but it's not in keeping if you paint something really, really well or at high level. So if it's sculpted, you can paint it to match, right? Where there's like, say these guys had, I can't remember what they're called ever, the smoky balls.
The sensors.
Sensors.
Thoroughables? Is that it?
Sensors.
A thorougable? Anyway, sensor bearers.
Yeah, you'd be struggling to portray that there was smoke coming out of it, right? And it kind of, I don't know. So I'm all for it because they can sculpt it well now in plastic and stuff like that. I think painting the, I did the Gaunt Summoner and the Ogroid, and that converted me because I painted the flames on that, and it kind of made the model. And I thought, yeah, without these sculpted flames, actually, it wouldn't be as good. So I'm all for it when it's done well.
Yeah. They've really changed the style of their smoke sculpting as well, I feel. Like, for the first
it's different on different minis, right? So this is like this is to suit whatever this is, and they obviously think about the sculpting of the smoke depending on what it is. I thought the Primaris with the grenade, that was really cool. Remember he's popping the grenade and a bit of smoke's coming out. I was like, yeah, that's cool. That's a nice push forward. So are these better than the last rats, the ones that you did? What do you think?
I don't think they're necessarily better. They're very different, but they're still, they're Skaven sort of thing. And I just really love them. I don't know what else to say. They're just so cool.
Solid.
Great, eh?
I do want to paint the middle one the most. That's
course.
The one I want to go for.
That's such a cool mini. They're all cool. If this is the shape of things to come, I mean, as someone who owns nearly all the Skaven miniatures ever made, it's very, very exciting. But you're saying, Andy, or is it better than the last warband? I think the nice thing is they'll look right together. Like, one of the things we often talk about, isn't it, is when you have a range, like an army for Games Workshop, where the range is inconsistent. And as Skaven is at the minute, you've got Pestilence sculpts that are 20 years old or whatever in there, and they were before there was that slight redesign. I think Seb Perbert led that and defined this sort of newer look. Whereas now we've got Eshin done in that same style. We've got Pestilence coming in that same style. It's so good.
Well, I think if they do like the proper release, and you got a new Clan Rat box set, and then you've got a Plague Monk box set, then you're sorted, right?
You really think they need a new Clan Rat box?
Yeah. I don't know what year they are, but yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I hope they don't waste time on that, because the point is those sculpts, they fit with this style, as in it's the same.
What year are they?
When was Island of Blood? That high elf
2012, something like that.
Yeah, I reckon 2012, 2013.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
No, they're fine, man. It's the other old shit we need to do. They're obviously, they were done to rank up, weren't they? Because they were fantasy battle.
No, you're right. They're okay. The Clan Rats. No, they're not too bad.
But there's a whole heap in there that aren't up to snuff. That were cool at the time, but they just aren't. But great pick, Matt. Great pick.
Couldn't not be rude.
Who got the next one?
Had to put this one on, didn't we? Really?
Damn.
It's been causing a stir.
I think I just love what Mark is doing. So this is Mark's own brand. So he's starting doing his own miniatures, and I think it's really cool because he's doing non-war, not historical. He's just doing like people, and so his last one was a lumberjack, and he just did this incredible woolen effect on his jumper and a leather jacket, and he's kind of back again with this girl, and the denim effect is mental. I mean, that is super convincing denim. You've got cast shadows on the t-shirt. There's a nice glass bottle. I've said loads of times, I think he's the best at painting a female face in our world, and proving that again. And yeah, I think it's kind of cool because he does a complete package, because he does the full video tutorials. So, you see this amazing box art and you're like, well, I can't do that, so what's the point in buying it? But you can buy the model and you can buy the video to follow along. And although it's going to be tough to match the level of this, I just think that's super cool. And yeah, I just encourage people to support him and go and get this miniature. I don't think I'm ever going to paint it. I bought it because Mark's great. I think I really appreciate that he's doing something that isn't typical and boring, just sci-fi fantasy, which of course we love. But yeah, I just had to support it. So, and I'll watch the videos. Looking forward to it.
Mm.
Any thoughts?
So good.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I watched the painting the t-shirt video. It was it's wicked, right?
That freehand logo on the t-shirt, is just.
It's just how casual the video of it is.
It's kind of subtly showing you can do everything, right? Because you got skin, you got denim, you got shadows, you got freehand, you got glass. It's just like, yeah, right.
Yeah, the glasses, that like internal refractions and reflections that you get through the glass really actually looks real.
Super. It's the denim, I think, for me. That's
denim. It's the sleeve, man. The top of the sleeve in the light. Oh. Also, just getting the color spot on. I think I'd find that hard enough, just getting the color right, let alone the texture and stuff. So, just had to show this one, and
go and give him a follow if you aren't already. We'll make sure in the description we've got all the links to all the accounts for people that we feature as well. But if you're not already, it's a good one.
Albert's saying in the comments that it's a portrait of his girlfriend. So,
well, Albert's girlfriend.
Pretty cool. No, Mark's, I'm assuming.
a bit of drama. Right. So I think there must be one more pick because I've got one somewhere. And I am completely. This is just very much the other end of the scale. No pun intended.
Teeny tiny.
You can't show off much on this. Let's be honest. Spray it, dry brush it, wash it, throw them down, and play massive games. I'm not going to pass up mentioning Epic. Everyone's got their nostalgia thing, right? I was lucky enough to be in the hobby in that sort of 90s golden era of all the specialist games and Epic and fantasy and 40k being mainline and all the rest of it. And my happiest gaming memories is Epic. To have it coming back is super exciting, and to have it coming back via Heresy, which is, I like the cyclical nature of all of that. Heresy sort of came from a little text box in Epic, which just to do with how many sprues they could make. So you make it a civil war, so you've only got to do one sprue, and then both sides have to have it. And now it's going full circle. And I started out with Epic, I came back in via Heresy. This is pure indulgence for me. There's been way better things come out in the last 2 weeks, but this one's got me so excited for just a bit of personal hobby, just a bit of colouring in, and just having a giggle really with it. I'm excited about new Titan stuff as well. I always like painting teeny Titans.
Is all the Titanica stuff in the same scale as this as well?
Yes, so this has been slightly upscaled. The old Epic was always a bit of an inconsistent scale anyway. But I mean, 40k has always been inconsistent scale, so I don't really mind that. And I've never been bothered by vehicles being different to infantry.
But you kind of have to, though.
Right? Yeah. Otherwise, it's like you're like playing with shoeboxes, aren't you, for a Rhino and stuff? Like I don't mind that stuff at all. But they slightly upscaled it. I think it's supposedly 8 mil. What I did think was interesting is that they've deliberately created, which again, if now I'm saying it, I think we had different bases the first time around, but they're thinner bases, so that they just sort of fit a little better,
cool.
Rather than them having the fatter lip around the outside that you would on the normal ones, which it's a cool idea. Like, it's a nice touch, I think. So whether or not I'll stick with it, I don't know. But yeah, just very, very excited, and there's going to be some Epic on the channel, so I'll let you know in advance of that. So it's not your bag.
I'm super disappointed, to be honest.
Big. You're sad because it's Heresy, right?
There's all been rumors of Epic for a while, and I was pumped because I really liked Epic when I was a kid, and I haven't touched Epic since I was a kid. But yeah, just the fact it's like ta-da, here's one side. Ugh, I just, it's kind of cool, but for me, I'm not interested at all, because it's not a box set with 2 factions in. If it was orcs, I'd be like, awesome. And I don't even like orcs, but I just want to see 2 factions, and I'm not interested if it's Imperials. I think it's great because it's like, that means in the future we might get some other stuff. But I couldn't be less interested if it's Imperials. As soon as they do any other race, I'm interested. Even if I play Imperials, but I don't want to play Imperial versus Imperial. It's, I don't know, I'm trying to be too negative, but it's
I think
very, very, very disappointing.
A lot of people have echoed that thought, and I've heard the argument, people quite vociferously arguing the opposite.
It's cool. It means it's
I'm
coming.
just happy the scale's back. It's my favourite scale to play a game in.
Yeah.
So
it's cool.
and as
Warhammer
I said,
looks amazing.
It's kind of, for me anyway, I immediately know how to paint everything. It's just going to be colouring in, and it's nice. Like, it'll just be relaxing. I think is that's the exciting side of it.
At least it should make the small scale category at Golden Demon less boring. No more planes with backdrops.
Slightly less planes.
Just no more planes with backdrops, people. I know.
You'll just have someone jumping out of one this time, or them gunning someone else down.
I imagine this is more of a like a test case. Like, it's easier to sell this than like a big box with 2 factions.
I think it's to do with files as well. It's going to be to do with files, right? Because this is all like
getting a load of money out of one digital file, right?
Yeah.
Print it at 2 scales and
that's cool.
sell it at 2.
So that's why I'm like, even though I said I'm super disappointed, I totally understand, and I'm like cool about it. But I just, as soon as Titanicus came out, I was like, I'm really into that when something else comes out. And it's the same for this. I'm not really interested in Imperial stuff at the moment. Even from a standpoint, if I was going to play with the Imperials, I want to play against Tyranids or Orcs. Like, it's not even about what I want to do. It's just I don't want to do 2 things.
Which armies have the most new sculpt 40k armies that could, like, you could almost kind of...
The vast majority of them are all
Nids and
aren't they?
Militarum. Like, they probably have the most newest.
Caddy
like
stuff,
Yeah, they could easily probably just shrink them down.
Yeah. Well, also in reverse, there's Solar Auxilia here.
Some new stuff in there.
So, let's get those tanks, please.
Later on. I do wonder as well, with it being part of the Specialist Games studio, their stable of games, whether that has also had an impact on...
They can't use 40k stuff, probably.
Supposedly, yeah.
Politics.
So, yeah, who knows? Love a bit of drama, but
just give me Bio Titans. I'm not even a massive Tyranid fan, but mate, I think it'd be so cool to see Bio Titans.
I had a big old epic Tyranid thing, epic 40k Tyranid thing. The Bio Titans. Oh, what's the old? Anyway, small scale. I'm all for it. It's great fun. If you've never given it a go before, you can create very cinematic looking battles and stuff, which is super cool.
Right, here's one last point is I'd rather do War Master than Old World. Just saying.
Agreed. I really hoped when we got the Old World rumors, I really hoped it was going to be brought back as War Master.
I'd be way more interested in doing Old World in War Master. That would be.
But hopefully,
cool.
Hopefully this is potentially a foreshadowing of that, right?
That's why I'm not too bummed out about it, because it's like, come on, let's all buy this box set so they can make us some Tyranids.
Yeah, big time. Oh, Nids. And think about, there must be loads of cool Nids coming soon as well for 40k. But anyway,
new hormones.
Our picks for thing. I think there was a meme this week, right?
There is a meme. Rich did send me a meme today.
Oh, no.
Did. It's safe, but it's very topical and funny.
Is it a Leviathan meme? Because I love those the most.
It's not at the moment.
Oh.
Ready?
Yeah.
It's very well done. Very good. lols.
Did that in Space Marines.
For the non 40k reveal, I think they did pretty well to only give us half of it being Space Marines
30k
in 40k. So those lovely big knights as well were on there. See, but yeah, people seem to be pretty down with the small scale stuff. But yeah, you're right. It'd be very interesting now what happens in that category for GD. How they.
Just no backdrops. Just no backdrops. No planes.
Hey, if you want to learn more about backdrops, go and check out our season 2 episode titled "Backdrops to the Future," where we gush about backdrops for an hour and a half.
We can blame Jamie for the plain backdrops.
And then go and visit Tarot and buy a load of backdrop prints. You'll be laughing. Right, main topic time. So, as I said, we did do this topic on the last show. We thoroughly enjoyed it. We've forgotten most of it. We've added some different slides in as well, following sort of a period of reflection on all of that. But we wanted to talk about it because John Blanche, for anyone who isn't aware, a very well-known fantasy and sci-fi artist, has recently retired and was the art director at Games Workshop for the last 40 years.
I think it was just shy of 40.
Just shy of 40 years. So a very long time. So had a huge hand in creating the visuals, the visual language, I think the phrase is, isn't it, of Warhammer, both 40k and fantasy, and therefore the artwork that we've all got favourite pieces of, which then led into the miniatures and all the rest of it. So we just wanted to have a little bit of a chat around some of our favourite pieces of his, sort of the impact they had on us, and then also some sort of select ones that we think were pretty significant in the whole 40k mythos and all the rest of it. So what's the first slide, Matt?
So the first one is, because I was a bit lazy, I kept them in most of the same order.
It's the Black Templars.
Black Templars.
So the 3rd edition boxed set. Now this was your way in, right, Andy?
Nope.
Matt, this was mine.
One of you was walking past a shop, yeah?
This was my way in. This is 7-year-old me. Write my name in the book. Like, look how dog-eared that thing is. Absolutely wrecked.
Nice.
Yeah, this was my addition into the hobby just after 2nd, like just as it ended into 3rd. Walking down High Street in a old town, and big posters with this on it. It's kind of unfair for a child. You can't avoid it.
Those standard charts, right?
No,
it's just too cool. And I think this style of picture for an awful lot of people is their sort of first exposure to John Blanche, I think, and he's often, certainly was for a good period of time, was the thing, wasn't it? It was Blanche did an amazing front cover for the big boxed game, and this, I think, this as well was the first real deep dive into the Black Templars as well, who've obviously gone on to become a real mainstay Marine faction, best looking Primaris faction, I think, as well, by quite some distance.
Easy.
They got a really nice.
They got a lot of love.
Yeah, got a ton of stuff. Some of which were pulled directly from this piece of 25-year-old artwork, whatever it was. But yeah, these huge sprawling battle scenes, it allowed you to see 40k in a different way, in the way that it would be written in the books. And again, at the time, 1998, there weren't a ton of novels out. Black Library wasn't pumping out loads of books all the time. In fact, I don't even know if Black Library, it must have kicked off around very, very, very.
It was
late
around then, yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't have tons of books on it. You didn't have, Instagram and loads of forums and all that with pictures of different takes on 40k. You had to rely on largely codexes and the rule books, and often in these editions as well, you know, the rule books, just as they are now, to be fair, the rule books were full of artwork and photos at that time. And this one, yeah, this one set the stage, I think, for an awful lot of people, didn't it? Because it was Games Workshop's sort of descent into grimdark, really, that had been bubbling
a massive
away.
Departure,
right? Yeah, I mean, we'll see shortly the previous edition cover for this, and yes, it's quite different.
I'm struggling to think of a better 40k art, to be honest.
Well, I think it's coming up later in the later in the in the episode, and in my mind, it's what's happening. Oh, God knows how this looks. Basically, just off camera to the right of this photo, I reckon, is where the best bit of artwork is created.
Can you hear me all right, by the way? I had to change my headphones.
yeah, all good.
Yeah, all good.
No, this is, yeah. This piece is. I'm gutted that it's no longer. You can't buy the big print. They on the official.
Really?
Yeah, they limited them to 250, and I just faffed and never actually got around to buying it. But yeah, and I said it on the last one, but I know this piece is sitting in one of the vault drawers in G-Dubs, and I want them to let me have a look at it once. Please.
We need to bombard GW about doing an art exhibition.
With the originals, yeah?
Exactly. Or do you know, whatever they want to do, all of it, as much as possible. But the originals would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, we might as well, we're going to touch on it at some point, so we may as well touch on it now. There's the idea of crediting the artists. I know you two weren't overly keen on this, but it is a discussion that's come up, and I thought it was telling. We were quite blunt about our feelings on it at the end of last episode of wanting to know who's painted stuff and sculpted stuff, because not necessarily from a great evil corporation point of view, but from it's great to have heroes, you know, artists that you can follow. And you know, there are models and there is artwork, you know, which all three of us have gone and got or been excited about knowing are coming because they've been done by a particular person. And I think it's just a bit sad to lose some of that by not crediting them. The reason I wanted to bring it up was since he's retired, I've noticed John Blanche seems to be a lot more active on various groups, social media and stuff. And he addressed this specific thing. And it was to do with the decision, wasn't it? It was a decision taken by him as the art director in conjunction with other members of the Games Workshop sort of hierarchy to remove that individual artist credit thing. And his argument being that very often more than one person would be working on a piece, even if they weren't necessarily more than one person was drawing it. The idea may come from somebody else, and I think his analogy was to do with like prototyping cars and things like that. You don't get told who the creator was and this, that, and the other. So I just think worth discussing, because it's quite a passionate conversation. I think when it comes up, there's a lot of recognize the artists and all that. Some that's almost by the by, but at least it's out of the way now.
I'll just say, like, on that though, but like I fully understand the point. I can also not agree on certain things, like working in sort of the media industry, you don't get credited either. Like everything that I do at work, most people around the world are going to see, but you'll never know it's from me. But I can also say that, you know, in the movie industry, even the T-boys get a credit.
Yeah. This, and I think we're not necessarily coming down on one side of the argument or the other on this, but I do think it's a good discussion, and it is a passionate discussion. And I can already see in the chat, you're never that far away from a creative when you're in this hobby anyway, a person doing it for their livelihood and stuff. So I think it's something that will run and run, but I did think it was worth bringing up because he had specifically addressed it in one of the things. Scott's made a comment a bit earlier on, and I think this is what we were saying a second ago with this piece of artwork. he's saying John Blanche art for me really, really drove home how terrible the 40k universe would be to live in as a regular person.
Just as anyone.
it's I think, and that was it. This was 3rd edition 40k. It was full on, right? We're going grimdark. Let's do it. And also at the time, we didn't get tons and tons of color pieces. So again, to see this, just such cool colors in this, you know, and I love the yellow casings on the Templar weapons and things like that, which Captain Normandy, the social media account, has done. I can never, is it Maxime? Sorry, I got the name right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Corbet.
Maxime Corbet, one of the sculptors at Games Workshop, has done an amazing Black Templars army, which riffs very, very heavily off this as its sort of inspiration for colours and style. But speaking of how does this stuff influence the miniatures that we get to paint, well, other than most of the miniatures existing that you can see in this picture in forms of different sort of kits and kit bashes, in the most recent Primaris Space Marine release, they dropped the dude, as we're looking at it on the right, just as a miniature. Because he's, I think they called him the Castellan.
Yeah.
And it created quite a lot of sort of confusion, didn't it? Is he a Primaris? Is he a big mini Marine? Is he, what is he? He's just...
I don't think they gave him any specific thing. It's just, here's big, cool Space Marine. Enjoy it.
Just, love it.
I've actually got a question related to that, because I keep hearing people calling the new Terminators Primaris Terminators. Is that, are they just Terminators?
No, they're just Terminators.
Yeah, but inside it is a Primaris.
The argument was that...
Same size armor, right?
Well, it's kind of bespoke. Terminator armor is kind of bespoke to the individual anyway. So if it needed biggerizing, they could biggerize it. I don't know, man. There seems to be, I think we've hit the point now of Primaris is a thing that happened, and it's just Space Marines now. You know, things I've noticed Primaris getting used less and less now in articles.
It's kind of that saying, when everyone's Primaris, no one is.
Right. So I think that's just where we are with it.
Phase them out.
But it's, you know, the Terminator models are awesome, because the armor design is super cool. How big the dude inside is not really relevant, is it? In the sense of making how cool it is.
That's what she said.
There we go. They did the Hell's Reach characters as Primaris. Yeah. So when the Black Templars got their fresh new range about a year ago or so now, maybe a touch more, they did many characters, including a riff off the Marshal that you look on the left of the picture as well. So yeah, one piece of artwork from 25 years ago, directly influencing miniatures that came out in the last 12 months. So I think it's a good one to start with. It's such a good picture, isn't it? I could stare at this one for ages.
It's honestly the best, I think, for 40k. Like, this stuff I sort of like more.
Did he do a 40k box cover after this one? Because I was...
Next one was Assault on Blackreach, which I think
that
was...
definitely wasn't him, was it?
Gallagher?
No.
Yeah, I think that was Gallagher.
It's not as good.
I don't think he did one after this. This was his last one.
Yeah, which is, you know, again, makes it...
He did the best too.
Right. Now, speaking of what came before, another enormous, great John Blanche box game cover. So
this is 93.
Previous edition of Warhammer 40k. This is where I got in. This was the box I saw in the shop and wanted to go and buy it. And you can see, very different. Very, very different. And
in a few short years as well.
Almost like, is it the same artist? And I think this is something we'll come up against when we look at particularly some of the pieces even earlier than this. Is that what I think a lot of people consider to be John Blanche's style or whatever is actually perhaps a lot broader than people assume. But there is so much I love about this, mainly from nostalgia. I won't lie. Like, I think the Black Templars one is a million times cooler. But then I have to remind myself, Warhammer isn't cool. It doesn't need to be. So stop worrying about that.
They're both individually cool in what they are.
There we go.
The Black Templars are amazing, grim dark. That really started to set the tone of the grim dark sort of theme coming in. The second edition was, it's very bright, very vibrant. It's sort of more high fantasy than sort of sci-fi fantasy almost.
Yeah, this was still big time. Warhammer is 140k is medieval knights in space. Kind of thing, which again, referencing another thread on some social media where he's directly said 40k was imagined to be this incredibly colourful place because of all this heraldry and the stuff that Marines would have, but also the Eldar, the Orcs. It was all meant to be bright and garish, and that doesn't mean it can't be grim dark. But it wasn't always pictures as black and white, which is how we saw it for so long, because of the limitations of print, right? They couldn't just fill all the books with coloured pieces.
I remember reading somewhere, it wasn't so much limitations on what the printing was capable of, it was just the cost.
Right.
It was so expensive.
Sorry, yeah. So that's the limitation, right? Is the ability to just bring out books of colour. And I imagine, I don't know for sure, but I imagine it's more time intensive as well.
I think it's cool having black and white on the inside. Like, I always read my second ed codexes. I say read, look at the pictures. But yeah, it's cool. They're all black and white little sketches in the inside, and then you just kind of have these iconic pieces for the main box in the colour.
But it made them more iconic, didn't it? The codex covers and stuff, because they were colour. So, and I think no surprise that this was known as the Red Era. Everything was red if it could be, including the shell casings on his bolter there, as someone's mentioned in the chats.
I love the warhounds in the background. Just
the old hedgehog pattern.
Armor cast style Titans.
Yeah.
All bombers.
Blood Angels. Armor cast Titan in the background. It's pretty. Oh, someone here saying that this is the only painting he did with blue in it, which is kind of cool. I love Blood Angels Devastators with blue lids.
Yes. And the missile launcher shoulder mounted with the yellow and black flames. That is off the Richter scale.
That's my biggest regret of my.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, it's my biggest regret of my GD entry was not able to get a blue helmet Devastator in there.
I don't know if it's still a thing, is it?
Nah, it's all boring.
They have them in the last codex. They still had the blue, gold, yellow, but I just don't think people do it.
Devastator.
I'd still paint them blue.
Speaking of, again, minis from artwork, we've got quite a long time ago, right? This model came out in Finecast during that era, which was a time when Games Workshop main brought out resin miniatures. They stopped casting things in metal for a while and brought it out in this slightly strange resin. And this was one of the first like homage miniatures I can remember them doing, actually, like off the art.
So this was the Games Day exclusive miniature from 2012.
There we go.
Yeah.
And Darren, now what's the link with Darren Latham in this one?
Nothing. Joe Tomaszewski painted it from my memory.
Right.
Might be wrong on that, but I thought he painted it. And I think Juan sculpted it based on the fingers, but
based on the fist.
I'm not 100% on either of those.
Gotcha.
It's a shame that this was sculpted in this time, to be honest, because if this came out now, it would be incredible, like crispy plastic set. So
I think we might see it. I really, really, really think we might see it. They're mining nostalgia. I mean, they just brought back Epic, for goodness sake. I can totally.
But they've done it, man. They've done
it. That doesn't stop them, does it?
Yeah. I mean, I want them to do it. I want them to do a Devastator in the background with the yellow.
Right. God, imagine if they just did a box that was the front cover. Andy's so excited there.
He's disconnected.
He's just disappeared. So I'm sure he will be back. I'm sure that. Oh, here we go. And Darren's saying in the chat, Darren did a similar Primaris captain in this style. That'd be
It's like one of his GD entries. He does the exclusive Primaris captain thing with the power fist, big cape. He's back.
Nice.
That was a new one.
Such a good one. The tech is on fire tonight, possibly literally. But you know, it's all right. It's not like anybody's watching. So yeah, this is it's quite stark, isn't it, when you look at the difference between second and third. And you know, the editions were out for a fairly long time as well. But you know, you look at that piece of artwork for second, the Blood Angels and all that, and you think, oh, it's quite garish, it's quite of its time. It's certainly a lot more cartoony, you know, for want of a better word, than the third edition classic Grimdark look. But when you make a miniature from it, that miniature's still perfect, right? It's still spot on. It fits, which I think is telling. You know, the minis have driven things as much as the artwork, I think.
It's just a few things. Like, I think it's just the blue sky, really. I think if you drop that, it would make a big difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you got the orcs fighting and stuff like that. I don't know.
But it's got all the imagery, right? It's got the statues that we're used to seeing. You know, that Greco-Roman sort of architectural thing they've got with the statues. You've got again that pushing home that this is fantasy in space. You know, there's flags, there's orcs, there's these massive great heroes, these knights.
I think what also might do it is that in the Black Templar piece, the Space Marines in that look more closer to what we have now in more modern day plastics, whereas the second ed, you know, they're a bit more rounded, their shoulders are up higher, they're a bit more sort of, you know, the like with the Blood Angel logo, it's the rounded one, not the sort of more sharp one.
Peak, Matthew, peak.
It was good. I have a set of those transfers in my drawer.
This close to doing a metal army, right?
They'll disintegrate the minute you get them near any water, so don't keep that yellow set of transfers slowly.
Oh no, I'll never use them. I just want
mouldering away. Friend gave me some Space Wolf ones of the same era. I was like, oh, this will look really cool. And then I literally I showed them towards the piece of kitchen towel and paper, and they just melted. That was that's the end of that. Right.
I used them on my Elder. I actually used them.
Biggies from front covers. And now we're going to dive quickly into one of the books of the second edition era. So there was a couple of codexes, I think, for second edition, certainly towards the end of second edition, that just heralded a bit of change. You could see something coming. And one of those, I think, was the Chaos Space Marine Codex. The front cover, we saw Abaddon, and inside, John Blanche did these amazing sort of, I don't really know what to call it. They're not doodles, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Right?
It's sketches.
It's just a brilliant way of just expanding out slightly on the different legions that we got. We knew had been in the background, but were brought much more to the fore in this codex. And I love all the little notes as if it's concept work, right?
It's amazing.
It's just, and we said this when we recorded this last time, they need to bring back furs. We need more furs on more things, more top knots, more furs.
Always.
Just do it, and flags, obviously. With big
and not
flags.
really tall top knots, you know, proper proportioned top knots.
Mate, if you like properly proportioned things, Warhammer is not for you. Let's be honest. Make it, the more ridiculous, the better, right? But I remember just poring over this book as a kid, as a teenager. Like, it just, yeah.
I think the notes make it as well. It's something that Jez Goodwin also does when you see any of his sketches. He's concepting out, this does this. I don't quite know how it works, but that's what it does.
Yeah,
and when you look at his elder sketchbooks and you read through those and you see, you know, on the Howling Banshees, he was like, was it the vibro braid or something, the chainsaw thing? Can't remember what they call it, but he like wrote down bits of information about it, which, you know, designers can then use and figure out.
Well, so you're saying that he did that for the designers. What you had?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, mate.
No, I was just saying, yeah, possibly. Like this is probably a bit more fleshed out for the book, but like, imagine the initial idea concept. They probably wrote stuff down so the designers could get an idea of what to do.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about that, I think, in more detail in a minute. But what I wanted to bring up, particularly with this piece, again, talking about how he was directly influencing the models that we were painting. So again, I've referenced at the time, you know, we didn't have loads of social media, we didn't have the internet, there wasn't all these things we could look at. When you saw painted miniatures, they were either in White Dwarf, which was once a month, they were in a codex or a rule book or something like this, or you had to go to something like Games Day, and you didn't have hundreds of gaming clubs all over the country and this, that, and the other. So a lot of the time, the miniatures that you saw were heavy metal standard miniatures or whatever your mates painted. But what I love in here is if you look on the photo we've got of it, he's giving you tips for converting your miniatures. So it's like, look, use beastman horns, use cocktail sticks to do spikes with. Plasticine fur, textured plasticine fur pelts, fist banner cut from Morglum neck snapper, an orc model, plastic oak seals, foil parchment, streamers. This is stuff that was like gold dust, because it was how to hobby, not in the way you were told by the admittedly brilliant like heavy metal guides and painting guys at the time, but this was a different way of doing it. And it felt a lot more, certainly as a teenager when I was doing it, it felt a lot more achievable, and sort of a bit loose, a bit, and I think Chaos particularly benefits from it. It takes it very easily, that sort of stick on loads of gribbly bits and it's all good. But it was huge, and I can still remember some of the minis I made from that time, just doing exactly what was written in here. Right, get the cocktail sticks out. That's how I do spikes and things. That's how I do this. You know, I hadn't read that anywhere else. At the time, you could get, you know, your train modeling magazines or a handful of sort of Tamiya type kit magazines, but there weren't loads of resources telling you how to make cool fantasy models. Or certainly not that I found sold at my local model shop. So yeah, it was huge. You know, he was directly influencing hobbyists just through little bits like this. And I think we got a slide of his some of his Chaos stuff itself, which right up my street. And is a, if you're into it now, if you're into things like Blanchitsu, Ink 28, you might have heard it called Grimdark, anything under that sort of those names, you'll have seen. Some of this will be very recognizable, this sort of style. And there's good old Mephiston with his
He's having a bad day.
He's having a great day, Matt. What are you on about? Look at that pelt. Look at that leopard print.
It's against the instructions.
Oh, right. Oh, God. We'll delve into that. Delve into that another time. Bring back banners. That's right, Matt. Bring back banners. We do seem to be seeing a few more of them. few more there now. Oh, Scott's saying, Andy, the blue sky from that second edition cover would make a brilliant backdrop for a small-scale aircraft games day.
Been done like 10 times already.
Yeah, I think so.
Backdrops are the new non-metallics.
Here we go.
It's
Billy
just that
saying
one
in the
category,
chat,
mate.
I wrote a letter and sent some illustrations to John Blanche when I was a teenager in the 80s. He took the time to send me back a postcard with some helpful advice about becoming an artist. I mean, that's just rad too,
Wow.
right? It's something that I only really realised as we were chatting about it when we did this the previous time. But I hope he's able to look back on it with a lot of pride. Shaping what is, I think, undoubtedly one of the deepest science fiction settings out there.
That's why people get so obsessed with Warhammer, and it's hard to explain to other people. I have a conversation all the time. What is it about Warhammer? And it is how deep it is. And even though stuff changes, you know, they mess about with the lore in general. It's been the same for a while, right? And actually, a lot of stuff comes out. You think about, I don't know, Star Wars, a film. There's hardly any films in total, and they don't come out often. We're always getting loads of novels and books and things. I don't know. The less said about that terrible IP, the better. But Warhammer's great. But I think it's stuff like this, right? It's all of the things into one. But I think all these artworks set back in the early days really set everything moving forward, and you can tell that the team working on stuff now loves that and are passionate about it, and that's why we get all those old models that are made from that. That's why anything like Angron or a Primarch is always going back to John Blanche. They don't go back to like or Jez for the most part. They really like to stick to those things.
I think I meant to add this slide in, actually. I forgot. I don't, you know, recently Workshop have done some stamps, postage stamps.
I want those.
And one of the, me too. One of the sets is, does this make me into stamps now? I don't know. I nearly bought some Iron Maiden ones as well. But yeah. There's on one of them, it's got Harry the Hammer, which is a piece we'll talk about in a bit, to the side. And then it's got the most recent Age of Sigmar special edition rulebook cover by an artist called Thomas Elliott, who's one of our favourite current Games Workshop artists. And whilst they are clearly a different artist, you can see so much in that piece that Thomas has done that was from the mind of John Blanche 30 years ago. There are so many callbacks to things from books like Realm of Chaos and stuff. And Thomas obviously put his own spin on it. But I think what you're saying there, Andy, is it must, I imagine it's daunting to a degree when you're given some chance to play around with this IP, but it must also be kind of a bit comforting to know that you've got a fuckload of stuff to reference and dive into. What was the next slide? Right. So we'll talk about it briefly, and rather fittingly. So talking of epic and Blood Angels with amazing leopard print shawls, scarves. Here's another. So we've zoomed out slightly from our Black Templars cover. We're getting a bit more in here now. And this was Epic 40K. So this was sort of the first sort of reboot of Epic. It was more just the sort of next edition of Epic. And this was the one that I played an awful lot of as a kid. But again, if you look in here, you'll see in the background, there's the Blood Angels Furioso Dreadnought.
Yeah.
You know, there's Death Company. There's the Land Raider that looks pretty much like the Land Raider that you buy now. It just these huge epic battle scenes, you know, messy,
so
exciting.
It's the ship in the top, man.
It's madness, isn't it? The scale, and it was a great way for them to get across the scale of the conflicts, wasn't it?
Look at that Thunderhawk at the top.
And right,
Coming
and
out of the ship.
you can tell immediately, right, when you glance at that. Oh, that's the Thunderhawk silhouette.
I know those flat wings anywhere.
It's gonna end up as a bug on the windshield of that cruiser.
That fucking great spaceship.
When are we getting a plastic Thunderhawk? That's what I'm saying.
I've got one in a box over there.
I would like to own one of those, to be fair. This dude at the front, though, is super cool.
This is the one I think we might get instead of.
Oh, that would be cool in plastic. Right? Oh my days!
Because he's got enough about him. Like you can see that as a miniature straight away.
Yeah.
Right. And he would be cannibalized for parts. Like I'd be getting 3, at least, because there'd be so many cool bits.
As long as they don't make it like exclusive, like commemorative thing, just bring it out.
They're fine. We keep getting those.
Is what you call it, isn't it? The Black Templars is just a general release.
Yeah, it's just general release.
It's always there. Yeah, I mean, it is a bit sort of like just it's showing off basically, isn't it? Like, oh, we'll just drop this incredible plastic miniature as a limited thing. Fair play.
I love Blood Angels.
If you can.
This makes me like Space Marines again, like going over this stuff. I'm just
Amory's saying, Amory, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong in the chat there. Square Warlords. You mean the Lucius pattern, which look incredible, and I can't wait till we get in plastic.
I miss Lucius.
Right.
I really miss them, yeah.
Yeah. So enough of that, Amory.
Mars pattern's best. Mars.
We need more Lucius. That was I'm hoping is what's coming over the next few years, actually.
I remember trying to work out what the difference was when I was younger on the Fortroll website. I'm like, it's the same picture. I was like, oh, what? Is it just tops a bit different? I was like, I don't really get it. But then I know now.
Meandering Shade's saying in the chat, Blanche said in a White Dwarf article that's the same Blood Angels captain from the 2nd edition cover. He's just further along in his career.
No way.
So,
are you serious?
Yeah, that's pretty cool, eh?
That's cool.
I like the he hasn't got a yellow plasma, but he's still got the like bone flames.
Wiggly flames. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And I like the shield with this kind of Death Company cross on his shin as well. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, why did the little wiggly flames fall out of fashion for Blood Angels?
They just stopped doing them.
A big thing, wasn't it? Bring that back, please.
People do it, don't they? That's the thing.
I do it on everyone.
Let's just nip that one straight in the bud. John Blanche has not passed. This is not like a
this is not a memorial.
We're very, very careful at the start. We don't want it to be like that. It's not even meant to be like a big gushy thing. It's taking a look at a recently retired art director of Games Workshop, creating most of the miniatures that most of us paint, and just seeing what a ludicrous impact that this man has had on stuff that we enjoy painting. It's
very active on socials for if he has. His ghost is still posting.
Right. So what I wanted to chat on the next slide was because we've picked 3 things here, which are all front colours. Now we've been very fortunate to have some amazing guests on over the last few years, and in season 1, I think it was, maybe the very beginning of season 2, we had another of our favourite artists. Possibly my favourite artist, certainly of the 90s, was Mark Gibbons. And when John Blanche retired, a bunch of different artists all made posts sort of just saying, he's retired. This was my experience working with him. And I would really, really recommend you go and follow, these other artists. MG Artworks is Mark's sort of work account. Still very active, incredible artist. But he spoke about how when he joined, the art production on any project would usually kick off with John, and I'm word for word here reading his post, would usually kick off with John creating a full-page black and white army shot, a piece so crammed to bursting with character detail and iconography it would provide most of the art direction required for the remainder of the book. So with that piece done, the other artists, so John Blanche, Wayne England, Dave Gallagher, Jez, I think, did a bit of art back then as well. They would sort of pick bits and bobs from it, and then they would go and create more art, and they'd create enough art to fill the books that we got. So I thought interesting that, he's from the mind of this man comes this huge, great thing. Like, right, we're doing Space Wolves. This is what Space Wolves are going to look like. Gives it to people, go and play with it, go and have fun. And he then creates a load more stuff from it as well. But again, just that impact of one person that's had in it. This Space Wolves picture, this was the one that Mark used as reference. You can see so many iconic things in this picture, right, that have gone on to become other pieces of artwork or miniatures, right?
Yeah, man.
I think we said in the last one, like the dags on the shoulder pads, the stripes on the chain swords, just all those little bits of detail that have percolated like for the last 40 years in every single piece of art. It's just crazy.
It's the one on the bottom right for me, his side profile. I think it's just absolutely spot on for a Marine. Like, you see that shoulder pad, big dags, just the profile of the helmet, the chainsaw with the stripes. Like, that's my favorite.
Wolfie Marine pelt on the, on the
on the bottom of the chainsword. Ooh, and the one shooting like towards the viewer as well, like just next to him. Those two are just the coolest, right? I love Space Force.
Just noticed in this piece, the dude that's holding the double-handed chainsword above his head.
Yeah.
The arm kind of looks like the glaive that the new Assault Primaris have as well.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
I wish Space Wolves had the Black Templars quality, like they did new Space Wolves properly, and they were all like kind of this, but a bit bigger and stuff like that. They could be so cool. You reckon?
I think so. I think now each time big Marine. So we know Dark Angels are coming.
Oh, we've done Angels.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's safe to assume now it's not just going to be a character blister.
Their release cycles are also like increasing again. Like with everything they're bringing out, it's just it won't be long before they get back to where they were at the start.
Oh man, I knew it was the faces at the time as well, because there was a lot of punk influence as well, a lot of anarchic themes going through Warhammer. It was very anti-establishment, and it just, I think one of the places you see that a lot is when they do unhelmeted humans, and it's got that. It just reminds me of. You would think of things that would have been around at a similar time, things like Mad Max, their take on the dystopian future, Blade Runner. I know I'm spanning a few years here, but you know what I'm getting at. Like,
there's a few pieces that I look at sometimes, like a few of the older pieces, and like I can't help but see Sting from the original Dune.
Yeah, right from well, and I mean that's really
Dune, whatever you say.
Given that. I mean, June is kind of where 40k came from.
Yeah.
So it's, I think that's very fitting that you see sort of similarities there. But I wanted to do a bit of research for this episode, obviously, and this was something I was unaware of. I'm a big fan of John Blanche's work. I have a lot of his art books. It's his vision of 40k and particularly 40k is how I picture it when I'm reading the books and things like that. But I had no idea about this sort of mood board almost that he would do. But back at the time, and again, of course, at the time, they had no idea that it was going to be this great, world-dominating, enormous thing that Warhammer's become. It was a couple of dudes in a building in Nottingham, having to fill books with fantastical artwork, right, and sci-fi artwork.
Pieces like this are like the amount of pressure, like maybe not back then because obviously it wasn't the size and scale that it is now, but there still would have been a considerable amount of pressure to produce something that carries forward, because if it didn't hit right, then Space Wolves could have flopped.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have Space Wolves now.
Yeah,
right.
And there's definitely there's a lot less Viking vibe, isn't there? I think in this picture, than you sort of get now.
It's like there's not as much focus on the beards and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's more about the markings and the pelts and stuff. Do you remember the first plastic Space Wolf accessory sprue, and that was all you had, and you had the wolf pelt off the back, and
Just
all
that
the little
one,
pelts. But that was kind of enough to wolf them up. It was super cool. I remember getting the Space Wolf Battle Force, which has got another really iconic art. Do you know the one with the axe, the ginger lad? That one's amazing. I just love all those wolves. Is it? It's probably one of the coolest Space Wolf arts. They're another thing. I think
he did a lot of the covers, didn't he?
Right.
He did quite a few.
10 years. Yeah.
Bring Space Wolves back in a proper way. That's what I say.
So when we recorded this last time, these were our like picks at the start of the episode. We were like, "Oh, better get a move on." It's so this time we decided to just stick even more picks before getting to these. and now, casually an hour into the show, we'll start taking a peek at what else is going on. So Harry the Hammer.
Back to the beginning.
I mentioned previously. Yeah, so this piece really surprised Andy when we brought our license. So this is before any of us were into Warhammer, before many of us were born. This piece comes out. So Warhammer began as a fantasy role-playing game, and this was the front cover of, I think, the first edition. I've got it over there on the shelf somewhere anyway.
Yeah.
It's either the first or second edition. And this character, Harry the Hammer, has gone throughout Warhammer Fantasy, but this was one of our first looks at a Chaos warrior. And Chaos, yes, there was a lot of Moorcock influences and all of that, but it's become a real Warhammer look. Is Warhammer Chaos, right? I think there's certain things, certain silhouettes, there's certain design things that are Warhammer now. That's theirs. And even though this piece looks very different to how the Chaos Warriors look nowadays, you can already see a few little nuggets on there that would be brought along for the ride and developed on. But you were really surprised with this, Andy, weren't you? As a piece. Well, I think you were saying that it just doesn't look like a John Blanche piece.
I mean, I know the art really well. I guess I can't remember what I was surprised at. Surprised that it was him, maybe. But I mean, I know the art super well.
Well, it was talking about that breadth of him not just being this scratchy, great big, almost concept style stuff, right? He could actually do, full, sort of detailed character pieces.
I'll say, I think the more of the stylistic change in quite a short period of time from this to the first cover is very, very, like, you can see aspects of like the influence, but they're just totally different.
Yeah, I love that they took the faces. I love that was the thing that came along, and the little checks, that bit of detail on there. But I think we've got a photo of the of Harry. Here is Harry the Hammer. He got this miniature more than 10 years ago, certainly.
See, I didn't know this was Harry the Hammer.
I know it's nothing like the art. It's nowhere near as good.
Oh, so there were Harry the Hammer developed as a drawing and all the rest of it. That was just the first one. But so this is what he ended up as, was this work. And again, if you look at books, so I've got Slaves to Darkness here. When was this originally? 1988. This was originally done. So 5 years after that one, you're seeing this, and this is much more what we would be used to as Chaos. If you haven't got these books and you like this type of artwork and stuff, go and buy them. They're amazing. Just
every time I've gone to Warhammer World, they haven't been in stock.
Oh no, but if you go through them, and there are nearly every page, there is something that is now a miniature that the designers have clearly gone back to and drawn from. As I say, because I think Chaos is such a big thing for Workshop. So next slide, Macbeth. This is really interesting, this one. So Matt, why don't you take this a bit?
I've completely forgotten, to be honest. It's it was part of the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing was done as the cover for that, and I think I can't remember if this is right or not, but it was something to do with the miners' strike. It also had some reference to that as well. Yeah, I remember reading that somewhere. I need to find the post again. But yeah, this was one of the fantasy role-playing pieces. Must have been 86. It's right there in front of me. But yeah, again, totally different, and just a totally different style, but still the same flavors.
But I think you could see, even though it was 3 years later than the Harry the Hammer picture, I think you can really see where it was going now. You know, we've got Warhammer orcs there, you know, starting to show up again. We've got a lot of skulls, which is sort of Warhammer sends itself up on now, doesn't it? With it, but even just the color palette there, just all of it, it's starting to go more than just, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, more than just generic fantasy artwork. You know, I've got a lot of art books from around this era of like Lord of the Rings and things like that, and they're all much of a muchness. They're all cool, but there are very few artists in there that stand out from the crowd, and I think this is starting to, right? And again, you know, look at some of those spears there. You know, those spears are on the Cruel Boys in a box behind me over there. You know, that orc look, the sort of slightly piggy tusks and all this, it was all starting to come. And again, that lovely checkerboard pattern.
He loves them.
Yeah, it's just very large, isn't it?
This and Harry the Hammer were on show at the Ansels exhibition when they had it open last summer.
Nice.
I think. This was like, it's so vivid in person. Like, it just just the color saturation is just ridiculous.
I was going to mention that because I bought the art print of the Elder Falcon, you know, the black one with the red background, and that print is completely different than looking on a computer screen or a White Dwarf print, or even the original cardboard box that it was on the front of. And I can't imagine the difference that's possible on the original, because I was actually shocked at how different it felt and how much better and more enjoyable it was to look at in just a print and just the colors and stuff like that. So I would love to see them in real life. Really inspirational just getting that art, because you can just see more subtle things in the way the Falcon's painted that I'd love to paint a Falcon in that way, you know. So I can imagine that this is totally different in person.
You did see it a little bit when we had McVeigh on the poddy in his background, because that's the original.
I didn't notice it. He's got it on his wall, was he?
Yeah.
That's always on the look, isn't he?
That's the first thing I clocked. I didn't even say hello to him.
You're like, oh, I want that.
I didn't know it was the original, mate. I didn't know it was the original.
Yeah.
Shit, that bad. That's the first time I've sworn on this podcast, I think.
We've got to make up for Rich not being here.
Oh, bugger me. Oh, get the center choc ice out the freezer.
Rich will be back soon. In case you're missing it. He's probably working on the merchandise. Right. Next slide is huge, massive
hair. Massive hair.
Again, of its time, that 80s, think Tina Turner, Thunderdome, you know, all this type of thing. But you did have a good story about this one, Matt.
This I remember reading on Thomas's saying that wrong because it's not pronounced like that, but his post. This was basically John's protest against all female characters in sci-fi and fantasy basically being naked all the time.
In fur bikinis.
Yeah. So armored up, just, you know, very dangerous person. Will kick your ass.
Right. Big time. And this was something that we saw a lot of going forwards with the miniatures. and the art, but you know, it's a miniatures company, right? This sort of there's so much going on with this look, right? To call it one particular style is wrong, but we saw so many of the female miniatures that they produced, whether that would be for Dark Elder, whether that would be for Necromunda, whether that would be for Sisters of Battle, whatever, come back to this picture. You know, this is where it started. You know, terrifying stilettos, very, very featured very, very heavily going forwards. But this drawing, there was a model that came out in the 90s for Necromunda called Mad Donna Eulanti. It was an Escher character, which she didn't have an axe and a shield and stuff, but was a very strong callback to this. And then when Necromunda got its redo in when was it, 2013, 2014, something like that, maybe a bit later, we got updates of a lot of those miniatures. And whilst this wasn't a direct update of Mad Donna, this bounty hunter that we've got, name escapes me now,
Belladonna.
Yeah, there you go. Again, you can see the callbacks there, as sort of where it's coming from. Again, just these badass female warriors, and I genuinely don't think that model would exist if that bit of artwork hadn't existed 30 years earlier. It's one of my favorite things that he did art-wise, was that aggressive, gnarly, just fucking cool, like, female warrior look. And yeah, I think he just absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love this art on its own, but I do love Escher, and it's that's kind of what's important about him, right? It's like, you know, what would Escher be at all? Would there be Escher if it wasn't for this? But I remember looking at Necromunda and thinking they were one of the coolest gangs, and yeah, all female, looking really cool, no compromises. I think that's really important for the IP, right? To just have that look. So yeah, even though I look at this art and I'm not like, you know, I don't love it, I think it's really important, and that just goes with all of his stuff, really.
Yeah, and that's I think that's really important, is it, to say is his work is quite Marmitey. It does provoke quite a strong reaction, which is a good thing from a bit of art, I think. But yeah, I think exactly what you said. You can't deny that influence it's had, which then other artists and sculptors and stuff take and tweak and develop. But I just think it's surprising how like for like some of the stuff is that he did 30 years ago, right, to what's coming out, like new things that are coming out now, like not things that are new takes on old stuff, like just genuinely new things. So do you remember when the Mechanicus range came out, the Adeptus Mechanicus? You know, that was incredible, because that was literally like just, oh, here's an entire army of John Blanche stuff, if you will.
That's what's cool about the company, is the people sculpting are fans. It's not like, you know, some people say, oh, it's a soulless corp, but it isn't really. There's maybe a couple people that are stopping certain things happening or whatever, but the guys that are working, sculpting the models, doing the arts, they're fans like us, and they love it, and they're probably going, I want to sculpt this thing like John Blanche, because I love that as well. And I think they've all got the same passion, if not more, because they work for the company as us, and that's, I think, why it goes full circle, and why it is so cool for us, because yeah, all the guys working for the company are such big fans as well, and they'll all love Blanche, right?
Yeah, I do imagine that sometimes, like, some of the designers and sculptors, they must just sit there at their computer, and then the amount of cool little quick ZBrush or freeform sketches that must exist on their desktop, just of stuff that could just be like print. I just like, oh, come on.
We'll get it eventually, right?
Yeah, you know? Maybe one day.
I can't. Oh, who was it? It was someone I really like. I saw it. They did one of the big things that's hard with doing pics now. Is so many people do the little reels and things on Instagram rather than the pictures. It was Joshua Lai.
They ruined it for the rest of us.
Well, but it was Joshua Lai just getting the Croxivore box. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
And just clips off the little frogs and then just bins the rest of it off. And I'm like, yeah, that's yeah. We're getting all these weird little doodads. I'm sure. Next up is a piece that is huge. I had no idea it was this old. But this, I mean, you're going to see a lot of influences here, I think, from Geiger.
The first one you see.
Which again, you see. Sorry, say again, mate.
It's the first one. It's one of the first ones you see in the third ed book as well.
Right.
It's crazy.
This is before the second ed really bright thing.
Yeah.
And then we said that the Black Templars was where it was first feeling really grim dark, but this is earlier, and this is like super grim. Like
I think it was more with that Black Templars one that what followed was the like grim dark period. It wasn't the red period anymore. It was the beginning of the grimdark sort of period where we had like, things like Mordheim come out and Inquisitor come out and stuff like that. But yeah, I can't believe this is 1987. Like it's
what it said on the website. The website's wrong.
1987, but again, this is the Emperor Mankind, so the 40k setting. The Emperor Mankind's this basically a god. He's trapped on this throne, plugged in, and is keeping everyone alive through his mind bullets. But this is the entire thing of 40k really is this, this is the good guy, maybe.
The not as bad guy.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode. But yeah, oh god, I love this piece so much. Sorry, it's I need it. I need a print of this one definitely.
Makes you realize how messed up the whole thing is, because it's like, all this stuff's happening because this is the boss. Bit like Amazon. You're like,
what you said then, Andy, about this was done in 87, and then we saw, and I really hope it was, and then we saw the big colourful period of the next 10 years. Isn't it cool that this idea actually was how things ended up? And we went through all this other cool stuff, but this is so current. This feels so integral to 40k in the way that perhaps that Blood Angels and Orc picture, it isn't integral to 40k now. It was a really cool, really formative, really nostalgic piece, but actually it's not what 40k is to the vast majority of people here now. This is, though. This piece of artwork absolutely is.
I think it got more put into a lot more books later on in third ed and onwards. I think that's it. Just so more eyes are on it. Whether it was used a lot before that, I'm not really entirely sure. But it feels like our third ed and after there was more usage of it, so more people saw it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's the case with the advent of the internet and the rest of it. We're able to share art, aren't we? But much easier now.
It's just
people...
It's even more grim when you know like the lore behind it and what's for the Golden Throne and 1,000 psychers a day are sacrificed just to keep this machine on.
Well, and if they just let him die, everything would be fine. But that's
no, it turns off the Astronomicon. Like they can't use the warp then.
Be fine, mate. Be fine. It gets reborn. Gets reborn as a Star Child. Next piece is when we were talking about what is the best piece of artwork ever for 40k. That isn't the Black Templars cover, and this is what I think is happening just off the side of that Black Templars cover. Yeah.
I mean, they would go like quite well together.
I think so. And this is when I said earlier that towards the end of second edition, we had the Chaos Space Marines Codex and we had the Sisters of Battle Codex, which this was the front cover for, which seemed to just herald in that new, slightly darker look. And all those ecclesiarchy officials and ministorum officials over on the right, just these awful, just ugh.
They're very June, aren't they? These are very,
yeah,
very June.
Yeah, and just again, very, very easy way when someone goes, so what is 40k? There you go.
Don't show them any new stuff.
These are the good guys. This is the nuns.
Nuns with guns.
Nuns with guns, right?
James Richard makes a good point in the comments. A lot of the second edition covers, their purpose was because you could buy the 40k boxes in Argos, so they had to compete with Bright Toys.
Yeah.
That's true. I bought mine in Toy Master. That was my first exposure to Warhammer, Toy Master, because we didn't have Games Workshop.
No. I remember them being in the Argos catalog. Mighty Empires was in there. Titanicus was in there.
It's cool, isn't it?
Was in it, yeah.
50 quid as well. Not what was Leviathan? 150.
Few notes, yeah.
Not better stuff though.
few squids. You're less likely to stick your hand in and it come out with like 400 pinpricks on it.
This is so much more baroque than anything like the new stuff, and I know we rat on some of the modern Marines a little bit, but the reason is I think they've lost their individuality and the grimness. Like, you know, this Sisters character, you know that it wouldn't be repeated. There wouldn't be another superior that looked like this, and that's what I miss. And I think looking at things like Karl Kopinski's Ultramarines, and they're really individual and they've got lots of bits. That's what I miss from the modern, the sculpts and the feel of it.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It seems bizarre that they've done it too. You know, when the whole thing of one of the most interesting things about Space Marines is the fact that they would take their culture from their previous lives, whether that was the Marine themselves, whether that was the home world, and that would influence who the Marine chapters are. Primaris is sterile. And again, I get it. There's some background stuff that supports and this, that, and the other, but I think you lose far more than you gain.
But then that's up to us to model, I guess.
And that's an argument, isn't it? That's absolutely an argument. Yeah.
But still, I look at this, and to be fair, the Sisters range, I can't fault it at all. But it's just this makes me want to do 40k again, and then I look at a box of Primaris, I don't know, mega jumpers, whatever they're called, and I'm like, nah, get out of here. I'm doing AOS, so I just want to bring back that baroque feel, that Blanche set. You know, the corporation is winning with the sterile.
But I think it says, you know, when you ask a lot of people what's been the best Primaris release, a lot of people say Black Templars.
Well, it's
right.
How could anyone argue, really? They're the most individual.
The Indomitus box, so the one we got before Leviathan. And why was it cool? Because it was all Baroque knights in space, right?
Yeah, all right.
They do have their ebbs and flows of sterile to more character to sterile to more character. It's kind of weird sometimes.
I'm very positive since Leviathan because I heard a rumor that they had what are the terrible Nerf guns called? Desolators. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
I heard it's probably made up, but they were hanging around and they were like, right, we need to get these out now before we bring out the good Marines. Like, we've been scared to release these because they're so bad. Because that was the last Marines that came out before these good Terminators, right?
Right.
And those Terminators are spot on. They've not changed the design. They're brilliant. The Stern Guard are kind of going back, even though they are still Primaris. They're closer to older stuff, and I think I'm optimistic that Marines in the future are going to be cool. I think we've had a little bit of a blip and a bad patch, and I kind of feel that's over because I can't fault the Terminators, really. I think they're brilliant. Well, and actually, normal intercessors are great. We've always said normal intercessors are brilliant. Assault intercessors.
Oh, yeah.
It's the weird units, but let's go back to normal Devastator squads and let's get one heavy weapon and one special weapon and a banner back in our tac squads. Yeah, come on.
Have you seen a Blanche drawing of a Primaris?
No.
Neither. So, what's the next slide? After this is about of course. Speaking of how it relates to miniatures, this was a limited edition one we got. I think resin, wasn't it?
Yeah,
pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
But again,
it's forge-dried resin though, so it wasn't too bad.
This again one of these lovely homage.
It was like the later fine cast. I think Forge World had a hand in them getting it a bit better.
They did, yeah. But yeah, just cracking. Let's have her again. Go on.
Yeah.
I love the painting of the sword, because it's just like Blanche's with all the orange and the dark underside. It's cool.
Yeah.
Spot on. Love it.
So, one of the last pieces that Blanche did was this Inquisitor sort of portrait. And again, it's this, he can create these enormous, great battle scenes and vistas and all the rest of it. But I think one of the things he excels at is the amount of character he gets into an individual. And again, it's created from his mind, because this is what he's been building with alongside the other creators at Workshop for the last 3-4 decades. But again, on this, we can see a lot of things that we see on the models, that all that fine filigree on the bolt pistols we start to see on Sisters models, Inquisitor models, things like that. That double-headed eagle, that's straight off Cultists, isn't it? And then just all the creepiest bionics.
You could just feel like he would just be really sweaty all the time and greasy.
I love the woman in the bottom. That face is incredible. I kind of imagine so much personality just from the face, and there's some messed up stuff going on with the brain.
What's all that stuff coming out of them? Is that psychic?
Yeah.
Is it like, what is it? It's so horrible as a
this
setting.
Is June is
so
I think this
good.
is very like June as well.
Yeah. Frank Herbert would be all over this shit. And I think it's important, like people talk about Dune, certainly the first book anyway. There's a lot of them, but I think universally the first book's very well regarded. And Blade Runner, the film at Simon, Philip K. Dick, and you've got Ursula Le Guin. These sort of seminal pieces and players in a type of sci-fi, Geiger to a degree, a type of sci-fi. I think you have to be putting John Blanche or / John Blanche Warhammer 40k into that, because it's still here and it's still relevant and it's still informing other artists and other creatives. And the same way that we've seen the Dune films and the Blade Runner films, actually both done by what's his name? I can't think of the
French
director's
dude
name now. Yeah, which are incredible visual pieces. Alien, obviously, the film from Geiger's artwork. I almost wonder if when we start to see the Amazon series and things like that, maybe it'll start to get more. It's not mainstream recognition, is it? Because it's still sci-fi, which will always be a niche. But I hope
the audience will get massive. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, mate, go on.
I was just saying, like, when the Amazon thing hits, like, it's gonna, they're a big company now, but Amazon Prime is what, 1.5 billion subscribers or something. That's a lot of eyes. Like, if we see on Amazon.co.uk's homepage Warhammer 40,000 the movie,
could ruin it. It could ruin it. All the normies will be into it, and then it won't be cool anymore.
And it's going to be really interesting to see, now that John Blanche isn't there, now that he isn't the art director, how is that handled?
I'm scared, to be honest.
I think it's scary.
Look at how bad Marvel is.
You'd have to hope that they aren't so foolish to recognize where the coolness has come from for Warhammer.
As long as they look at Marvel as how not to do it.
How not to do it right. But again, I suppose it's testament. It will be testament as well to the job that he's done as the art director to put it in a place where it can look after itself, as it were. You know, it can continue to create and evolve with that look. But I think Matt, sorry, yeah, go on. But
I was going to say, I suppose, like, because as John is now retired as art director, who is now the new art director?
No idea.
I mean, we'll probably won't get to know, but like, I imagine he had more than a hand in selecting and probably like whatever you want to call it, like growing that talent inside. I can't imagine it's a fresh off the street person. I imagine whoever it is now has worked at the company for a very long time, so is going to know the art inside out and push the way it needs to be pushed if it goes through the Amazon thing.
I hope so. But it's the same as anything, isn't it? You know, it's been going 40 years. It's going to be ups and downs. You know, it's not a lot we can do, is there? With all, and just cross our fingers, I guess. I know, Matt, you said with this piece, it was one of his last full pieces, right?
Yeah. So from what I've been told, it was one of his last big pieces that he did, just getting that detail in is just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, man. I know.
The face, like I wish there was that's the only like truly frustrating thing about all Games Workshop art is the quality is always potato. Like there's no good scans, obviously for obvious reasons. But
we want to see him in real life.
Frustrating.
Yeah, give us some exhibitions. Come on.
Yeah, charge a tenner. Could pack a couple hundred people into to Warhammer World again. 15 quid for a burger. They make a mint.
I ain't having any of them burgers ever.
I'm just conscious of the time. We could talk about this for hours, and we shouldn't. And I know we started late, so let's just rattle through a little bit more. Miniatures influenced by his work on us. There was a range that was a direct result of his work, which was pieces based directly off characters that he created. It was called the Femme Militant range. It's about 20 miniatures or so, I think, got done from various different sculptors. 54 mil? No, they weren't 54. A bit smaller. I think like 40 mil or so.
2 or something around that range.
Bigger than what was at the time, but not as big as, say, Inquisitor. Very, very sought after miniatures. So they based off things. He did lovely presentation boxes and everything. Wish I had been around when these.
I think he's currently trying to get all of them. I vaguely remember him commenting on someone who'd posted it in one of the old Hammer forums.
Nice. That
I think his box had been nicked, so he doesn't have a copy of it. So I think he's trying to collect them again.
Bloody hell.
Let's just smash through a couple more bits of art. There are going to be so many pieces that we wanted to put in that we couldn't. We haven't covered Mordheim. There's the amazing Knights Panther piece he did. There are so many pieces, and I'm sure we will do episodes on more of John Blanche's artwork in the future, whether that's as a specific topic like Mordheim or whether it's, again, just looking at influential pieces of art. So please don't get too pissed that we haven't done certain ones. But Battlefleet Gothic, this was another
episode coming soon.
Biggie, right? Yeah. Again, talking about how he was able to portray that sense of scale that there is in 40k. Just utter nonsense.
I love the ships. I love the ships. It just really changes how you feel about the universe, like the size of these guys. We mentioned last time those videos that go through all the sci-fi IPs, and then you're
spaceships,
you're like, whoa, how much bigger is this than a Death Star? Like,
it's like when you look at this, like the Enterprise would be like one of the Diddy ones right down the bottom that basically hasn't got any detail on it.
Would the Death Star fit in one of those holes? Like, would you
right?
Plug it in.
What I love about it is the weaponry on them is so archaic. Like one of their main weapons is they'll just ram you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you got the Enterprise. Pew 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 pew. No, I'm going to just drive my ship into you.
Drive through you. Yeah.
Just a sense of scale as well. Like when you look into the lore of these things, you have a dude that will work on like the underbelly of the ship, will have lived on his planet for like until like 10, been brought onto the ship and then die on the ship having never seen a planet again, or even a window.
You'll get ones born literally into the plasma reactor furnaces and die in the plasma reactor furnace. That's
a nice way to go. Just hope that Geller field doesn't collapse.
It's an area I hope they're gonna. Well, we're fairly confident we're going to see Battlefleet Gothic again quite soon.
Please, not Heresy.
And it will be great to see it. I think, and we will absolutely do an episode on it. But again, this was that, as I said, this was that switch over in the mid to late 90s. Third edition came along, Mordheim came along, BFG came along. It was a change, and it was, again, it's got John Blanche's fingerprints all over it, as miniatures. Another bit of artwork that's really popular with people, has spawned lots of little dioramas, both at full scale and tiny scale, is the Eternity Gate. So this is sort of the door before where we saw him sat on his throne. It's big. It's very big.
If you have this book, read the blurb about it. It tells you everything you need to know. The third ed.
Oh, I don't have that. I was out of the mix then.
It's people travel their entire lives just to get to the first step and then die.
Just to get in the queue.
Yeah, the queue that's 10 miles long.
Yeah.
Like Warhammer Fest.
Yeah, a lot like Warhammer Fest.
It's fluffy. It was fluffy. The festival was fluffy.
Absolutely. But yeah, just another great one. And again, so many little motifs and things on this that you will see in loads of other artwork from GW. Now,
I was going to say the thing about this was because this was also at the Ansel exhibition. It's not big, but the detail that's packed into it is crazy.
When you say not big, like what is it?
Probably a bit bigger than A4.
Wow.
It wasn't huge.
That is crazy.
Pete says, what did WD-40 needed for those hinges? Yeah, absolutely. And that would have been some little pleb's job their whole life. Blessed to be able to squirt a bit of oil on the hinges.
My head canon was that it's like they put a door there, but it's not actually a door. It just doesn't open because they don't want anyone to come in.
like a distraction door.
Yeah, it's a fake door, like a Disney.
Billy's saying one thing we haven't mentioned is that John Blanche dragged the Zorn palette into popular fantasy art, which is cool, which is that particular set of colours, isn't it?
I think we said it last time we recorded this.
Yeah. We did. Blanche Hallmark. Couple more characters, and then I think we'll do the paint cultists. So, pieces that become minis. Abaddon the Despoiler, one of the bestists. Again, we saw this art in the second ed codex we talked about earlier in the show. Just Warhammer 40k chaos personified, really.
I love him.
We got a great Jez model. Again, I don't know whether that model came first or this piece of art came first. But
I think
they're very
the art came
first,
too,
aren't they? With a lot of their creation.
Was this before Jez's sketch? Like, who do we know? Can we find out who did it first?
Not sure. We saw them. We first saw them at the same time. The miniature and this.
I know in the Gothic and the Eldritch, Jez's sketch of this has a date on it. I can't remember the date, but I haven't found a date on the Blanche one.
I have to ask. Pop him a message. Who did the first Abaddon?
But we got an amazing Abaddon miniature, which we had for 20-something years. We did an episode not so long ago talking about our favourite sort of glow-ups, and we had certain minis in there that were knocking on. Were certainly over 2 decades old, and were significant characters such as the Despoiler, the War Master of Chaos, and he got rather a splendid new miniature.
Did
not that long ago, actually quite long ago. Now, 8 years ago.
Was it BC?
7 years ago,
No.
6 years ago. It was after Primaris turned up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is it 18 maybe 2018?
Yeah. So
I don't know.
You know,
Yeah, it must have been 2018.
Another belter.
Yeah, it's grand.
But again, we can see all those cues, you know, from the artwork: the sword, Draconier, and the Talon of Horus. You know, the markings on the knees and all that.
Still needed those double trophy racks.
Well, that's what I did on mine, Matthew, wasn't it?
And everybody's favourite Primaris model as well.
I got PTSD from that cloak. It's just brought it back. I think I spent 3 days sanding, maybe a whole week. I think it was a whole week actually. Anyway,
that's worth it, though, mate.
Yeah, just about.
Results.
And then I think we got
last one.
A slightly different take. So moving back to the specialist games department with the Horus Heresy. There's an amazing book called Visions of Heresy, which is a collection of sketches by John Blanche, such as this, artwork from the collectible card game that came out about 20 years ago. And the second edition of it had the art from the covers of the novels and things like that. But again, it's sketches like this where you got to see, right, this is Angron, this is the, you know, and Blanche wrote about and did doodles and things of, or sketches rather, of the legions 30 plus years ago. You know, these seeds had already been sown back then, and then each time they'd be revisited and fleshed out more and more. And this was the Angron one, which then Simon Egan went on to sculpt it was really the first Primarch model we'd seen. We had some slightly weird ones from the 80s when they weren't really Primarchs. And
this was the first
and stuff, but this was the first Primarch model really that we'd ever seen. And what one to kick off with. But you could hopefully see just again how closely that it is influenced by that artwork, by that creation, by that direction.
Wish they could redo it in CAD, because I actually think it's basically a perfect sculpt, pose, design. There's nothing wrong with it apart from the quality could just be better if they redid it. He's pretty small compared to the rest.
Yeah, he is.
So it's a shame that he's old, but they absolutely nailed it. I think Simon Egan is the man.
But it is an old model.
Yeah, you know? 10 years, it's a decade old now, right?
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
You know, and then we saw a few episodes ago, we had lucky enough to have Martin on, member of the ex-member of the heavy metal team, who got to work or got to paint the newest plastic version of Angron, the Demon Prince, which of course had a lot of callbacks to this model, you know, which again calls back to the artwork and whatnot. So, you know, it wasn't just setting the scene, it wasn't just, you know, creating these great vistas and all the rest of it. It was informing, you know, the details of some of the big personalities that have gone on to shape the setting. Again, from that mind of that one man. So I think we'll close it out on him with just another amazingly influential person in Games Workshop's history when it comes to painting miniatures. Mike McVeigh, another wonderful guest we had on towards the end of last year. He did a lovely post talking about how John was, you know, mentored him and did all the rest of it. And I'll read a little bit because I think it's really important to hear. So again, this is coming from, you know, Mike McVeigh, you know, many consider to be the sort of, you know, the most influential heavy metal painter of all time and all the rest of it. It's impossible to overstate John's influence on every creative element of Games Workshop. For many years, when the majority of the products Games Workshop are still selling were born, he was central to the creation of every piece of art produced and commissioned, every miniature painted, every logo designed, and every creative decision made. So if you're looking at a Games Workshop product, you're looking at something that John had a hand in bringing to life. To me, it's simple. No John Blanche, no Warhammer. And that's
Wow.
it, right? But I think it's fair, right? Of course, there's been
amazing.
loads of other amazing people involved in it, but it's the dude, right? So
Yeah.
happy retirement and keep doing stuff, because the stuff John's done outside of Games Workshop is amazing as well, and hoping we're going to get to see some of that not too far away. So was there anything else you guys wanted to touch on before we move on?
No, I think
that was great.
Didn't mind doing it again. It's just such good stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
I just want to see them in person so badly.
We'll just start an email thing every week. Just badger them until they do it.
Send loads of emails to random names at GWPLC.
Anyone, yeah.
Just let me see them. Let me in the building.
We'll get there. Right, we'll close out the show as usual. Keep looking on camera as usual. Take a look at what the hashtag Paint Cultists have been up to. So, do you fancy following a hashtag over on Instagram, or we've got a little section on our Discord as well? Hashtag Paint Cultists. You've got 25,000 odd posts on there now, and it might well expose you to some different miniatures, companies you might not see, different painters, different styles. It's really, really exciting, and we certainly didn't think it'd take off like it's taken off. And the majority of it's great. There's a few shit accounts on there, but don't stress about that. They get drowned out by all the awesomeness. And all I do every show is pick a handful of ones that jump out to me, and we chuck them up to have a look at. But honestly, it's a brilliant way to go and waste 5-10 minutes. I'm sure you'll know what I mean, and enjoy looking at some cool things. So first up, Maximum Nostalgia with a tiny tweak, which I really like, and which upset a few people in the comments section of this post.
What did you? He tweaked it since GD, or
it's the black, not
Fingers.
all the metal being metal.
Oh,
leaving some of the metal black.
Yeah, I prefer that.
I think it's cool. It's something I really like doing, but it's also a cool. I respect that decision. But
God, I love this so much.
Yeah.
I really, really want to do an old metal army. Like, I really want to. I want to play 40k with an army like this more than I want to do anything else. My favorite.
It's just so good. It's just the essence of second edition Warhammer.
It is, yeah.
Done very, very nicely, though, isn't it? As well.
Yeah.
Like lots of people try this, but I think this one's been executed
it's just
really, really well.
Done to perfection.
Yeah.
I wish I had the time to just do this, because he's like, this is my thing, I'm going to do all my minis in this way, and I just don't really have time to do all these things. But yeah, I'd love to just do a year just only doing old Hammer Marine army. It'd be so fun, wouldn't it?
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
So moving on to something that is an awful lot newer, and this is one of Rich's favourite accounts, and again, just super fun account to follow. Really, really lovely stuff. Well into their knights and their vehicles and things. Produce tons of exciting projects, and this is what the hell is it called? Is it an Armiger? That's it.
Amiga.
So this is Amiga. But again, some nice little kit bash touches on there. But again, really doubles down on that fantasy and space thing. Like, they're called knights, right? They're not big robots. They're knights.
Love the
heraldry all over it.
I love the deer symbol. That's super cool.
Yeah, right. And then just little touches like that little mouth piece over the one of the gun barrels, or not the gun barrels, up by there. Just making it their own, which I think is super cool, and a great photo as well.
I love the trees, actually. The base is super nice.
Really, really nicely done. And then, speaking of small scale, and Andy's love for small scale GD entries, at least this one hasn't got a backdrop.
Exactly, it's great. Well done. Well done,
buddy Ryan. Yeah, love it. One of the coolest planes in 40k. I think the hot rod of planes. And having a bad day.
And you got the person there for scale.
Yeah, right.
That's what you want, not a blue
Might have to revisit that backdrop episode.
This is
only in
done
this
to death
one-
now.
have to update it.
It's only in the one category, by the way, just this one category.
People like that don't drill your barrels. We'll just have to do another one of them, right?
You don't need a backdrop to win in that category. Yeah,
No,
just do it without. Orc bomber, no backdrop, job done.
No base, no base.
Oh,
Yeah, no base.
So good, that Orc bomber.
Yes.
Oh man, need to go and look at that. And still best celebration. Someone's got to try and top it.
They should give him a job.
Right, I think there are a couple more.
One more.
Just the one more.
Yeah.
This is from, oh goodness, is it Hera's new stuff? No?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a new miniature,
Sorry.
yeah.
Lovely paint job. Really like the colours on this.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's a little bit grimmer and a little bit darker than what we often see.
It's cool, right?
On
It
these.
suits
And I
it way more.
really like it. I really like the dead goblin.
The skin on the goblin's fantastic.
Poor goblin.
Poor
Didn't do anything wrong.
Maybe he's okay. Maybe he's sleeping.
He's not dead. He's sleeping.
It's not overly rendered as well. Like you look at the shoes of the goblin, and I think that's just right. And you've got some little hints of blue and color, but it's really nice and soft, and I think that suits it.
Blood drop is wicked.
Well.
Yeah. So a larger piece, this. So yeah, if you're interested in having a go at larger, go check out a set. We'll make sure we put everything in the description, the accounts to go and follow, any of the companies like Hera that we've mentioned that have produced these minis. So if you want to get in touch with some topic ideas for future episodes, or whether you think there's some artists we need to take a look at, or just to tell us that we're wrong, or to send memes to Rich specifically, Army of Test Models, you can get in touch with us a ton of different ways. Just Cult of Paint everywhere. Bang us an email, do it on Instagram, do it on YouTube, whatever. We'll always do our best to get back to you. We'll be back next week with the next episode, and then we will be back on track. As I said, it's all going out on the main channel now. The main channel is what it is. You're going to take a look at the homepage now, the main channel. You see we've broken it up a bit, so you should be able to navigate easily between tutorial videos and the podcast itself. We split it into season playlists as well. So we just hope it'll be a slightly better experience for everybody to use it. That's the goal with it. So if you're watching this back and you've enjoyed it, you know the usual: like, subscribe, share. It makes a massive difference to us. We want to get those live view numbers back up as well, because the funnest part of this is having the chat there and having a natter with you. So it's been lovely to see all the comments in there. It's been fairly friendly as well, usually friendly, which is good. We need to do something more contentious soon, get things kicking off in there a bit.
I'll get a controversial subject ready.
Yeah. We'll be fine like that. So hopefully Rich will be back with us next episode. Hopefully we won't have any tech issues with the next episode. Matt,
wasn't my fault this time.
No. We doing any more courses? Yes, we'll be doing classes again as of September. I hope to have the dates up next week after watching this, so about 7 days from this going live. Tickets will go up beforehand, and that'll be for September through December for the classes. We're just having summer off because we want to, and we've got quite a lot of big things coming up which we need to get in order to be ready. So Matt, Andy, thanks ever so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed that one. I like doing it again. I'd do it a third time, but we're probably pushing it then.
Yeah, maybe not
third. We could talk about John Blanche art for the rest of it. So thanks, chaps. Thanks, chat. We'll see you next time.
Bye.